Hello, beautiful humans. I hope that you're having a great Saturday. Yesterday, I made multiple really big decisions in my life about things that I was or was not available for. And I wanted to pop on for a second and talk about the decisions that we make when we're making big decisions, that they are so much bigger than the dynamic or the situation that we are seeing ourselves in right there. And I want to talk about the energetics and energetic alignment of the decisions that we make. And I want to speak a little bit about some of the decisions that I made for myself that are truly going to impact the trajectory of the rest of my life. Because it's so much more than the decision about the dynamic or situation that I was making a decision about. It is really about the energetics behind the decision that I'm making and why I'm particularly picking one decision versus another, why I'm aligning with one specific energetic versus another. I think very frequently as we move through the human experience, that we make decisions thinking that we are just making a decision about a particular situation or dynamic. And my truth, which does not have to be yours, is that so frequently it's so much more than that. We are literally sending a message to the universe, to God, to Source, to the divine, to Mother Nature, whatever it is that you say. For me, those are the same thing, about what we're available for. I'm a huge believer that everything in life is available for us. And it's whether or not we are available for it. And that is the energetic piece that I want to talk to you guys about. So yesterday I made a couple of really big decisions. And it would have been very simple for me to make a different decision in all of the different dynamics. But I wasn't making the decision from the place of the particular dynamic or situation. I was making the decision rooted in the energetics. And it became really easy to make those decisions when I was moving from a place of energetics. And I want to explain that a little bit. So one of the decisions that I made yesterday was that there's something that is unique to me that I keep very hidden, wouldn't be the right word, protected. It hasn't felt safe to me to allow this part of me, this expression of me, this uniqueness of who I am to be expressed and experienced in its full experience by the outside world. There is a way that I contemplate, there is a way that I engage with spirit, there is a way that information comes through me that I have always been very protective of. Meaning, I don't let people into the intricate little details of the uniqueness of how I contemplate, of how I engage with spirit. I will show people the final package, right? So if you were to think about a little present, when it's all wrapped up and it looks perfect and it has a bow on it and it's perfect, that is where I have been willing to show people this expression of me. Rather than showing people what the process looks for wrapping the present, right? It's like, here's the finished product. Versus, let me bring you into the experience that I have with the way that I engage with spirit. And this week, I had an invitation to step into something. Let me back up. That's the noise that I make when I rewind, by the way. It's very similar to the noise that I make when I zoom out to the 30,000 foot view, to the 100,000 foot view, to the soul view, okay? Those noises are experienced very similarly for me. But I'm going to rewind for a second. So we're going to go. Blah, 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 blah. At the end of last year, in 2025, I created some additional space in my life. And every time I create additional space in my life, things come through me. I experience them differently. And part of that is because I'm giving space for the part of me that engages really deeply with spirit. And so I created the space in my life to be able to engage with spirit at a different level. And when that happened, I got a lot of clarity about who I am, the uniqueness of the way that I engage with spirit and the human experience, and clarity around my purpose in this human experience. And it came through as a kind of like large chunk, right? It was like sometimes when information comes through me, is channeled through me, it's like little pieces and little pieces and little pieces, and I put them all together. And sometimes when something comes through me, it will come through me as a large chunk, like whole thing. This came through me as whole thing. And then little pieces started being sprinkled. But those little pieces only got sprinkled into my awareness when I did the things that I received in the big chunk. Okay? So, I got this big chunk in December. That was very much connected to my authenticity, to my uniqueness, the authentic way that I engage with spirit and engage with the human experience, and what I'm meant to do with it, why there is uniqueness there. And part of that big chunk, dunk, that's the noise that it makes, by the way, dunk, was that if I was willing to live my life in full transparency, meaning in real time as my life is unfolding, that I allow people to witness me in the experience. And if I was willing to do that, that I would always get everything that I needed, that the next step in the evolution of me would always come, that the people who are meant to hear the things that I am saying would always be there, that whatever it was that I needed in the 3D human experience would be provided. In whatever I needed in the evolution of me as a soul having a human experience would be available. And that if I was willing to do this, that the other side of it is that I would always have what I needed. And so I started living into that in a way that I had not previously done. And I started sharing more of me inside of All of Me, which is my group coaching program, and bringing more of me, All of Me, hence the name. And as I went through that process, I started to be able to witness and experience, yep, I got the next step. Yep, I got the next thing. Yep, the people that were supposed to hear that heard that. Yep. So as I could witness that exactly what I was told was going to happen would happen, I started to get additional little pieces, right? So there was that large dunk, and then there are these little pieces that are coming in. And I can feel that there's another dunk coming. My job is not to try and control the timing that the next dunk comes, but my job is to be the version of me who is a vibrational or frequency match, who has evolved enough to receive the dunk when it comes, when the timing is right. I don't control the timing. The timing is about the evolution of me and the evolution of what I am co-creating inside of the human experience. And I don't control that. But what I do control is me and being a frequency match for when the timing is right. Meaning all I can do is focus on the evolution of me. And that is enough. And so as I have listened to the messages that have come through and followed the message, because that was part of the dunk, right, was that I needed to follow the direction that came through without wavering. Now, that doesn't mean without wobbling, okay? Because there's a human inside of me as well, right? So you guys know the term human being? Sometimes we forget that we are a human being. The human is the human part, like the meat sack that we're walking around in. The being part is the soul, the essence of us, right? The frequency that is unique to us. And for me, my truth is that I'm a soul having a human experience, meaning I've lived before, I'll live again. And this is just one human experience. And so there is a human being inside of me. My soul can be like, yes, I will do exactly what comes through when it comes through. And the human in me is like, that feels a little scary, right? Both get to exist. And I need to honor both, because if I miss the being part, then I'm not connected to my purpose. I'm not connected to the universe, God, Mother Nature, Source, Divine. And if I forget that I'm a human, excuse me, then I forget that I can't be a human being. I can't be on the earthly plane doing the human thing with all of the emotions and all of the things if I'm not human. Like, I have to be both, right? Like, I have to be a human being. I have to recognize I'm a soul having a human experience, which means that there is this amazing connection back to source, back to the universe, back to God, back to the divine, back to earth. And there is a human with all of these delicious emotions and fear and joy and bliss and inadequacy and fear of rejection and all of it. I get to experience all of it and remember that I am both. And to not let one or the other completely lead my life. So, over the past 2 weeks or so, there have been some little additional pieces coming in that go with the large dunk that came in at the end of December. And some of these little pieces have been talking about deepening into allowing people to witness me in my process. And there's a level of vulnerability that goes along with that. Because this is what I'm going to tell you. Sometimes when I am channeling something and it is coming through me, I will have an experience where I experience something in the body. I'm going to give you an example. The other night, I was listening to my mentor on a video. I was listening to the replay of a program that I am taking with her. And I love to listen to her replay. I love to catch her live too, right? So when it works for my schedule, I will join a program with her live. And I used to feel like I had to be there live. Like if I watched the replay, somehow it cheapened it or lessened it. And I really looked at that story that I had created inside of myself and got curious about it and asked myself, why? Why did I have to be present in person in order to get the value out of it? And as I started to open myself up to that self-limiting belief and challenging that self-limiting belief, what was available for me was that when I'm watching a replay, one of the freedoms that I get to experience on a replay is the ability to hit pause. And it's beautiful. I love it. I love everything about it. If I'm meant to be there live, I'll be there live. If I'm meant to watch the replay, I'll watch the replay. And when I watch the replay, there is this stunning capability that I have to take my little finger and hit pause. Because one of the things that happens is that when she is speaking, and she also is a channel, when she is speaking, something may be coming through her and coming out of her mouth, and I may be experiencing something else. Meaning, she says something, and it brings me in a direction over here when she's talking here. But this path that it invites me into is valuable, as is this path. Both have value for me. And on a replay, it gives me the ability to follow my own path that is created through the energetics of what she is saying. And I can do that. I can hit pause. I can follow that path. And then I can come back and I can hit play and I can follow this path, right? Can you see that? There's different energetic paths that it gives me the freedom to engage with and play with. And there's more freedom there. I get other things when I'm live with her. Both experiences are beautiful. So I was listening to a replay of a class that was part of a program that I had missed that particular class. And I had paused it because my awareness was going in a different direction. I was contemplating something that bubbled up for me that was not the direct line of what she was talking about, but is still super valuable for me. So I'm following that energetic pathway. And there's this energy that pops into my awareness. Now I have a choice point, just like I had the choice point of continuing to follow my mentor, following what's organically coming up for me, right? And I had made the choice to follow what was organically coming up for me. And then I was following that, and then there was another choice point. I could continue to follow that, or I could get curious about this energy that I was experiencing. And I chose to get curious about the energy that I was experiencing. And as I got curious about that and brought my awareness from where it was into the energy that I was curious about, that energy moved through me is really the only way that I can express the experience that I had. And this happens frequently. So when I feel an energy, frequently, I will receive it in the body, meaning I will feel it move through me. And I will feel the energy move through my entire body. And in that moment, I have an understanding that whatever that energy was, my body, my nervous system understands everything about it. But frequently, my mind does not. Meaning that I need to give it time to move from my body, where there's full awareness and understanding, up into my mind, where there would be a narrative that could come out of my mouth and be shared. Or out of my mind to myself, to contemplate, to experience, to get curious about, to explore. So the other night, I had this energy bubble come into my awareness. I experienced it through the body. And this is part of the uniqueness of how I engage with spirit, is that frequently I will experience something in a multi-sensory experience. And it takes a hot second for the narrative to come up into my mind and to be captured in a way that I could articulate it to another human. It doesn't mean that I don't have a full understanding in my body. It doesn't mean that my nervous system hasn't fully captured every delicious detail of that energy. And then as my mind is a frequency match for it, it comes up and there's a narrative, right? Now, sometimes I will experience this where I have a knowing in the body. And then I also know that it is my job as the owner of this unique frequency to create the space and time and frequency match to be able to understand cognitively the experience that I just had in the body. And I also have a full understanding of how somatics works. So I have the ability to work with my nervous system and my body to bring the narrative, to bring the energy from a knowing in the body to a knowing in the mind. And that it's not a forced process, it's an allowing. It's allowing it to come into mind, right? I don't force it into mind. It's not like that. It's a divine feminine expression. It is an allowing. It is creating the space and the safety for me to experience it in mind. Now, sometimes I will get these big downloads and my body will have a full understanding, but it may be a week or 3 before my mind understands fully what my body has received, what my nervous system is holding. So on this particular evening, it became really clear that the energy bubble that I was experiencing was connected to another human. And this particular human is somebody who I had shared that I'd been invited into. I shared with her that I'd been invited into being more vulnerable and transparent about the way that I engage with spirit and the human experience. And so I'd already told her that. And during one of the classes this past week inside of All of Me, at the very end, there was a period where I started to demonstrate just a little bit, just testing the water, just dipping my toes in, of allowing people to witness me in the way that I receive. And in that moment, right, so we had a class on Wednesday. We had the full class, and then at the very end, I don't even remember how it came up. I could watch the video, but something happened where there was the opportunity for me to dip my toes in this and be more vulnerable and more transparent about the uniqueness of how I receive information from spirit and what I do with it and how I work with it and how I process it and the way that I engage with it, and then the way that I engage with the human experience as a result of this information, right? And so I took it. I took the opportunity and I tested the water. And part of me testing the water was to witness what the experience was like for other people. Part of it was to experience what the experience was like for me, meaning what came up inside of me in response to being more vulnerable about this part of me that I have been very self-protective of, because it hasn't felt safe, because it felt like I was misunderstood so much of my life for the way that I engage with spirit. And whether this is true or not, it's a story I created in my own mind, right? That people wouldn't and don't understand the way that I engage with spirit, and then the way that that relationship with spirit manifests inside of me and my human experience. And so I'm carrying this story that people will misunderstand me, that they won't get it. And then worse than that, they're probably going to judge me, right? That's the story. And so I really needed to challenge that story. So dipping my toes in the water gave me the opportunity to notice what happened inside of my being, the organism of me, when I was more vulnerable about this thing that felt so scary to let people see, to let people in. Like, are they going to understand? Will they judge me? Will they find it valuable? Why do I have to do this? And then I'm like, oh yeah, the chunk thing. I'm gonna do this. This is what I agreed to. And what I will say is, when that chunk came in December, and it was like, dunk, that was the noise. It was a remembering. It was like, oh yeah, I agreed to this before I got here in this human experience. It was a remembering of my purpose. It wasn't a new awareness of. And I could have experienced it as a new awareness of, but it wasn't that. It was like, there was this awareness, and when I deepened into the awareness, that dunk, it was like, oh yeah, I already said yes to this. I already agreed to this purpose. I already agreed to living my life in full transparency, in the unique way that I engage with spirit, and how that leads and guides the way that I engage with the human experience. And so I tested the water, and then I created the space to witness and observe myself, not just in the experience and how I navigated that and what that experience was like, but the aftermath of it. So over the next 24 hours after that, I got to witness myself, witness insecurity bubbling up, witness a little bit of shadow feminine where I was like clingy and needy and like, tell me I'm okay. Create safety for me, right? Like I wanted safety created for me, but I was the only one who could do it. And so I used that space and that time to create safety for myself, to stretch my capacity for vulnerability in this particular aspect of my life. And I witnessed myself and coached myself through that experience, led myself through the experience. And so one of the individuals who happened to stay on for that part, the very end of that call, had a one-on-one session with me later that was already scheduled. And in it, I had shared about how this was something that I was being invited into and that I was going to do, but that I was like tiptoeing into gently, being like, ah, that's it. Ah. And so that evening, I was listening to a replay of my mentor, hit pause, followed what was coming up organically inside of me, had an opportunity to engage with this energy, chose to engage with the energy. The energy moved through me. And in the moment that it moved through my body, I understood that it was connected to this other individual. I also understood that it was connected to me. And so I put my big girl pants on and I got really brave. And I said, okay, you're safe. And it's okay for you to be really vulnerable with yourself and with this other person in this experience. And so I voice memoed her. And I shared and narrated the experience that I was having. And explained exactly what I'm explaining to you about how an energy bubble comes into my body and then moves from my body awareness up into my mind so that there's a narrative that could come out of my mouth. And she's received multiple voice memos from me before where I have contemplated something, received a message, gotten it into my mind, got the narrative, put it in a little package with a bow, pretty wrapping paper, and handed it over to her in a voice memo. This was very different. This was me showing her the process and narrating through the experience that I was having. So not only was I narrating the experience that I was having, which was a new experience for me, I was also recognizing the vulnerability of the experience for me, right? So there was the experience of bringing it from body into mind so that I could narrate it. But there was also the experience of stepping into this level of vulnerability for myself, right? So I'm holding both at the same time. And the part that feels the most vulnerable to me is that sometimes when I receive information in the body and I'm waiting for it to move to mind where I can have a narrative that I could share out of my mouth whole, right? That process could be right then. And that process could be a week later. That process could be 3 months later. I don't know. I just know that I can feel it and I can create the space to be with it. And I understand the process inside of me. But I don't actually control when the narrative is received. I control being the frequency match for the narrative to be received. And so I'm narrating to her on a voice memo the experience that I'm having because she said, I want to understand how you receive. Like, I want to know all the little details. Like, how does this work for you? What does it look like? What happens, right? And so I'm narrating it not knowing whether I would ever get anything or whether everything that she was going to get was the experience of experiencing it. And then who knows when the actual content would come into a spot where I could share it. And so I voice memoed her and shared that whole thing. She and I had some exchange back and forth. And then I had the opportunity to share inside of all of me about that experience. And that was one of the decisions that I made yesterday, was to offer, because some space got created in my schedule. I'm going to talk about that in a second. But I made the choice to offer a workshop for anybody who happened to see it, who happened to want to come, I sent out an email. That's not true. Peg sent out an email for me. I typed it. She sent it. Mostly because she doesn't want me messing around with sending out email blasts. And she's right about that. I would probably mess it up, okay? That's just the truth. She has a system down. So I posted on social media that it was an option that was available. I sent an email out, and then I held the workshop. It was just over an hour, and I talked about leading myself and facing myself in the experience, in what it was like to face myself and lead myself through that experience. And then I got to witness, just like I had when I dipped my toes in the water, how my system navigated that. Where my upper limits of my nervous system for my zone of tolerance were. How I stretched my capacity. So part of what I did in yesterday's workshop was to narrate in real time when I was experiencing the upper limit of my capacity to be vulnerable, to receive information, to track the information that was coming through, what that experience was like for me, how it was that I was stretching my capacity to be with that. I allowed the people who were in the workshop to witness the way that I work with my nervous system and my energy body, my energetics, in combination, respecting all parts of me, right? And then, as the rest of the day went on, I got to watch the way that my system navigated and dealt with that. And again, there were moments of insecurity. There were moments of neediness. There were moments of like, can somebody hug me? Tell me I'm okay? Which was just me looking for an off-ramp for the tension of stretching my capacity to allow people to experience this part of me that I've been very self-protective about. And so I witnessed my being in the way that I was engaging with it and the whole experience, and led myself through the day yesterday. Not just the experience of running the workshop, but all of the aftermath of the workshop and everything that it brought up for me. And how to consciously stretch my awareness around this, how to step into more of me and more of my purpose, and how to grow and stretch that capacity to be that expression of me. And so I made some decisions yesterday. And if I were to tell you this, I'd be like, I made a decision to run a workshop. Like, that wasn't planned, that wasn't scheduled, I just ran a workshop. Can you see how on paper that's one thing, but the energetics behind it are so much bigger? I wasn't saying yes to running the workshop. I was saying yes to being more of me, to bringing more of me, to embodying more of me, to owning my authenticity and my uniqueness, to owning my purpose, to owning the way that I engage with the human experience. I wasn't saying yes to a workshop. So often we make a decision thinking that we are just making a decision. It's so much bigger than that. I didn't say yes to a workshop. I said yes to my purpose. I said yes to my uniqueness. I said yes to my relationship with spirit. I said yes to the way that I want to engage with the human experience. I said yes to the evolution of me. I said yes to the next step. But what if I had said no? I want you to understand that I wasn't saying yes to the workshop. I was saying yes to the energetics. I was saying to the universe, God, Mother Nature, Source, the divine, I trust. I surrender. I'm stepping into this. I'm ready. I accept the mission. I know I already said that I accept the mission before I got here. And then I remembered it again in December. And I've been remembering it as I've moved through my human experience. And this is just the next step in me saying yes. But if I had said no, if there had been, right, there was a choice point. yesterday morning, where I could choose to follow this or I could choose not to. And I had a laundry list of other things that I could have accomplished with the space that I got in my day. Again, I'll talk about that in a second, because it's in the same vein of energetics. And there was a choice point where I could have gone and accomplished a bunch of other things. And guys, I have a laundry list of them. The badass inside of me has a list of to-dos. And I could have banged out a whole bunch of them. But I would have been saying yes to who I am right now if I had done that. Because that is how I have moved through the human experience up until this point, which is what has created this version of me. But instead, I said yes to the next expression of me. I said yes to my purpose. I said yes to my authenticity. I said yes, I will be brave and I will bring more of me. I wasn't saying yes to a workshop. I was telling the universe, God, Mother Nature, Source, the Divine, that I was all in, that I would do it, that I'd already said yes. It was never about the workshop. It was about the energetics. And I think frequently we make decisions thinking that we're making one decision. But really what we're doing is we're sending a message to God, Mother Nature, Source, the Divine, the universe, our higher beings, angels, whatever you say, for me they're the same thing. We're saying, yes, I step into this, or no, I don't, with the decisions that we make. And we do this thinking that there won't be a ripple effect, but there's a huge ripple effect. Yesterday morning, it was actually the night before, so Thursday night, there was something that bubbled up in my reality where I got the choice to be who I've been, or I got the choice to be who I want to be. And I got the choice to hold a boundary and show up and lead myself in a different way. And I made that choice on Thursday night. It was very clear for me. And I could also feel the parts of me that were like, well, it would be okay if we cut the corner, we did it this way, it would be fine. That, if I had followed it, would have brought me back into the current expression of me, the one who makes the decisions the way that I've been making them. But instead, I made a very different decision. I wasn't making this decision just to make this decision. This decision, there was also the energetics of what I was saying. Am I available for this? Am I not available for this? Am I available for everything that goes with the next expression of me? Am I not available? And there is a lot that went into that. I wasn't just saying yes or no to an appointment. I was saying yes or no to taking that appointment and everything that came with the yes and everything that came with the no. And if I had said yes, that would have taken me in one trajectory of my life. And if I said no, that would take me in a different trajectory of my life. Not just for that dynamic. Not just for that dynamic. But I'm literally telling God, the universe, Mother Nature, Divine, Source, I'm available for this. I have the capacity to hold the consequences of the decision that I am making in either direction. So if I pick yes, I'm also choosing all of the consequences of yes, not just the ones in this moment, but the ones that are a ripple effect from my decision to say yes. And when I say no, I'm also choosing the consequences of my no and all of the ripple effect that will happen, not just in that moment, not just in the dynamic. Okay, it would have been a lot easier for me to say yes to this thing. And I could have met myself in a place of integrity where I say, I'm going to say yes, but I'm going to do it slightly differently than I've done in the past. Excuse me. I'm going to show up in some of the energetics of the next expression of me. But instead, I said, I am going to show up in the depth of the frequency of the next expression of me in all of it that is available to me right now, knowing that it is not all of where I'm going, but it was what I had access to yesterday. And I could have chosen to say, yes, my old way, yes, and I will embody some of this frequency, or no. I said no. I held a line that, let me think about how to say this. It wasn't that it was difficult to hold, it was very simple. The decision was very simple for me. But what I had been avoiding was some of the consequences, because there were consequences. When I said no to this, it resulted in someone being upset. More than one person being upset. But the truth was that I either cared more about my evolution or them being upset. And the reality is that I believe wholeheartedly that the decision that I made yesterday, while it upset two people in the moment, it was the best thing that I could do for them, both of them, and myself. And so from that place and space, it made the decision easy. Because I was saying yes for all of us. It's just whether or not I had the capacity to hold all of the consequences of the yes, knowing that these two other individuals may be unsettled before they realize the gift that was in it. And so that is the space that I have avoided in the past, because I didn't have the capacity, or I didn't believe that I had the capacity to hold that. And I thought that there was a better way. But that better way was really just cutting corners and was energetically not right for the authentic expression of me. And so I said no and held the energetics of the no, which was really saying yes to the next expression of me, to the evolution of me, to the truth of who I am, and held all of the consequences of it. All of them. The emotions that the other people were feeling and shared. And I held my emotions about their emotions. I held that all. And that was the space that I didn't have the capacity to hold before. And so yesterday was an enormous day for me. And I could tell you this story. In yesterday's workshop, one of the things that I said is that I will take a short story and I will make it long. There are people who take a long story and make it short. I will take a short story and I will make it long. Okay? And it has taken me some time to understand why I do that. And I've been able to witness it inside of myself. Like, I've been picked on about it for a long time. And I'm allowing this part of me to be expressed more deeply. And so if you're inside of all of me, or if you're attending any of the workshops that you can purchase a la carte, if you're not inside of all of me, but you want to take a particular workshop and you join a workshop and you've been through the workshop, you might have noticed that there's like storytelling in a different way that I'm doing. And it's like an arc, it's an evolution. It's like I bring people through a process. And it's taken me some time to understand why I take a short story and make it long. And I understand that about myself more deeply now. Because it is in taking something that is short, like I could just give you the data, I could just give you the divine masculine of it, I could give you the data, and I could make a long story short. Or I can take a short story and allow you to feel it. Allow you to feel it. Create the space for it to engage your nervous system, for it to engage your emotions, for it to engage your energy body. That's part of my uniqueness, is that I feel life. I feel life. I experience life through feeling, not just through thinking. And there's a whole lot that I could say about that. That's a whole workshop that's coming. But I will take a short story, something that I could come on here, and I literally could have sat down, started a live video, and said to you, yesterday, I made some big decisions, and they were big. Short story short. What did you get from it? Probably not much. But I took a short story and I allowed you to experience it as I experienced it. The whole thing. What did it bring up? Did it make you feel something? Did it engage your nervous system? Did it engage your energy body? Did you notice that you feel more alive? Or are you like, no, could you just please make it short? Take your hour-and-a-half story and make it 2 minutes. You could have just come on and told me. You made some big decisions. Good for you. I would have been like. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay? There is no issue. There's no judgment on my side for somebody who's like, take your long story, clamp it down, and give me the cliff notes. But then you wouldn't feel it. There wouldn't be the integration. There wouldn't be the evolution. You wouldn't be calibrating to the frequency of what I'm saying. You would just be hearing my words. You'd be experiencing me in your mind. But I don't want to be experienced in the mind. I want to be experienced as a whole experience, a multisensory experience. I want you to feel me. I want you to feel what I'm saying to you. So I'm not going to take a short story and make it short. I'm going to take a short story and I'm going to make it long because that's how I experience it. And the people who are like, take your long story and make it short, lady. There's no judgment. It's just not the way that I move through the world. And the more permission that I give myself to take a short story and make it as long and juicy and delicious as I want to, the happier I get. The more that I enjoy life, the more satisfied I am, the more fulfilled I am, the more joy I experience, the more bliss that I experience. The more I understand myself, the more that I understand the human experience, the more that I understand the world around me, the more I understand God, the more I understand the universe, the more I understand Mother Nature. And so, this is part of feminine energetics. I believe that the people who are looking for a long story short will find the person who tells a long story short. And that's beautiful to me. And I think that the people who want a short story long so they can feel it, they can experience it, that it's an experience versus an understanding, they'll find me. If this is a frequency that resonates. And that's part of the dunk. It's a cognitive knowing that I've understood. But I never understood the energetics in the way that I do right now. And so, here I am with my dunk, making a short story that literally could have been 2 minutes. I could have come on and said, I made big decisions. I'm proud of myself. And some of you would have been like, good job, Erin. But I'm sharing more of me. And inside of all of me, I'm sharing a much more vulnerable side of me. And that is part of me growing and stretching my capacity to do it everywhere. To just literally walk around the human plane being like, I have no fucks to give. I have no fucks to give. I'll sing on Facebook if I want to. I'll sing on Facebook if I want to. I'm getting there. I hope you have a beautiful day. And whether you enjoyed my short story long, or whether you were like, lady, bring it down. I like that it brought you into you. Because now you either understand you like a short story long, or you understand more deeply that you like a long story short. There's no problem either way. I love your faces.